This is one of the parts I love because you all enjoy each other so much that you just keep going, and I would love to listen to that all day. But instead I like listening to myself, so I'm going to start. So, welcome everybody to the team meeting. For those of you who don't know, well, first of all, those of you on Zoom, welcome. Those of you who don't know, my name's Jamie. I'm the Chief Value Officer here at Keller Williams Preferred Realty, and I'm up here on behalf of the leadership team. And let's get, well, one of the things I always thought was awkward was a grown man wearing a grown man's jersey. It'd be like you guys walking down the road and someone's wearing a Tasha Wells badge, you know? Just kind of weird, right? Yeah, I get it. So, Jace, you got a clicker? There you go, bud. Hey, well, first of all, let's give a round of applause. Our meeting sponsor is Brian Sunder. Always reminds me of like Sesame Street, sponsored by Brian, and the letter Q and the number 8. And just to remind us, it's been a great month already with the KW and Canva combination with Jason and Grace, and then we had Sarah last week jumping in for Jason and doing a great insight, and then we have Matt this week, which is exciting, and then we're following up with the power hitter, Olivia. That's gonna be a great week next week. Our purpose: serve agents, impact lives. Leadership, what are our values?
Culture, integrity, impact, growth.
Keller Williams, we take the oath.
Okay, and with that, we're recognizing the play of the week, Sarah Anderson. Sarah not only met her goals already this year, she's on pace to go past her stretch goals. She's always quick to jump up and teach and be a part of whatever conversation is necessary and wanted, and a member of the ALC. So thank you so much. And let's give a round of applause for the pirate who avoided last week so that we didn't cheer for him. Yay! And as we said, pirate of the week because he was gone and he avoided the cheering. So what did we do? We had Sarah jump in. So thanks for being pirate of the week, Sarah. Okay, this is also the week where we usually go over the lore. Karina is just getting back from being sick, so she is wanting to stay in her office. Thank you, Karina. She doesn't want to infect everybody. However, we do want to mention she will be doing this next week, and it looks like we've been infecting each other with success. Because look at how much you guys have crushed the MLS. And $11,000 given back to y'all for helping grow the company. So thank you. Carly, what do you got for us? Thank you for the cereal Lucky Duck for the month.
Oh, yeah. Just want to quickly invite everyone to participate in one of our upcoming events. It's the Trunk or Treat. We do it out in the parking lot here. We have a really good turnout every year, but we'd love to see more people participate. If you've never done it before, it's free. You just have to decorate your trunk and invite your sphere. And it's a great intro into events if you're thinking you're not sure if you want to do that for your clients or not. The beautiful thing is if you don't have a bunch of people show up, there's a bunch of other agents there. So you've got a lot of other people you can, if your agents show up, or if your clients show up, there's probably going to be 50 other people there. So it's not like you have to worry about turnout or anything like that. You can leverage the office's marketing that they do for the event. So it's a great way to sort of add this to your marketing to your clients. And it's a lot of fun. It's just a couple hours on the Saturday before Halloween. So would love to have more people participate. So
You have to do costumes.
you don't.
How long have you been doing this for?
How long have you been doing it?
Yeah.
We started, we used to do like a haunted house in the office,
Yeah.
and then in COVID we switched to the trunk or treat. So since 2020 we've been doing that. So Chad is an original.
I was gonna say, I think you've been doing this for almost 10 years. I'd
Yeah.
just like to say thank you for doing this.
We normally anyone has questions, let me know. Otherwise, you can scan the QR code in our SVP. If you got any questions, happy to chat with you. Yeah.
Why is it important for RSVP?
So that we can plan, and then we all bring candy, right, for our trunks. So we want to know how many people are participating in advance so that we can, and you also want to get the message out to your clients in advance so they can. Yeah. Cool.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. With the way the weather's holding out, it's gonna be swim trunk or treat. And just one last thing, reminder, September of Socks is going on. When I asked Kelly, how many socks we got, Kelly?
Not enough.
Not enough. That's the update. We need more socks. We need, again, the single most requested item in homeless shelters are socks. And Tasha, I saw you're really crushing it, so thank you for that. So, why athletes and authors? We've had a championship mindset series here for quite some time. These are the only guys I know, so they all came. Now Cece's bringing someone she knows, so that's really cool. Why is this so important? Why is mindset so important? It's the internal climate that we all make a decision in. So as realtors, it's your number one asset to protect. It's also your number one nemesis. It's easier said than done. That's why it's important for us to have people like Matt come and pour into us. Graduate of Harvard, you had me there.
Oh.
15-year vet, Super Bowl champ. Think about this, Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year. I know he doesn't want to hear all this, but it just says so much about his character. Founded the Hype Foundation, NFL's Director of Football Development. Think about that. The biggest sport we have in this country, and he's helping direct the development. Professional speaker and author, and he co-founded Unity Catholic High School, of which he just came from. Cece, come up and tell us something quick before we bring him up.
All right, now is the moment we've all been waiting for. So a lot of you, if you don't know, and some of you do, I ran for Congress in the 2022 midterm elections. And time of my life, had a fantastic experience, met a lot of people. You learn so much when you find out what is desired and what the motivations are for your constituents. Fantastic line across the way for candidates, particularly on the Republican side. And there was one candidate, Matt Birk, who I had been screaming. I represented, at the time I lived in Minneapolis, I represented Congressional District 5. And this candidate, Matt Birk, was the one who spent so much time in CD5 because he knew that's where the votes counted. Those were the people who had the greatest needs. Those were the people who really needed the most attention. And from there, doing events and rallies, fundraisers, and all that, you really got to figure out and learn who this guy is. He is absolutely a man of his word. We know all of his history. We're going to hear from him, but I'm telling you that this is a man who's always looking for what's next. Let's hear from him. He can talk about himself a lot better than I can. I think we need to give him an appropriate kind of welcome. So let's do that here. Let's all stand. We're going to welcome him. This is how we're doing it. This is how we're doing it.
Ready?
Yes.
Skullchan wasn't around when I played for the Vikings. So
Yeah,
that doesn't do it for me. Thanks for having me. That introduction was, I guess, factually some of it's true, but I don't know. I guess I'm here because I've been really fortunate in my life to be around a lot of high achievers and to be in a lot of high performing environments. And I think that really lifted me up, you know. I don't know, you don't know me, I don't know most of you, but you know, growing up, I was pretty average in a lot of ways. It wasn't like, you know, when I was running around the playground or in school, teachers say, that kid, he's gonna go to Harvard, he's gonna play in the NFL. That was not what was happening. But very fortunate to have just, I said, a lot of good people around me. And I think I'm not smart, but one of the things I was smart enough to do was try to learn from those people. And I love now at this stage of my life, I guess, to be around other people who are just striving to get better. I mean, to me, if like I'm gonna articulate my purpose to like the basic needs, my professional purpose would just be every day just trying to get better, you know? And athletics is, I think, a great forum or a great metaphor for that, right? Especially football, because football's a stupid, simple game, right? That's why it's so popular. It ain't, as we used to say, it ain't rocket surgery. And we also used to say, you know, guys, like, you know, we're thinking too much. Like, if we were smart, we'd be doing something else for a living. So, I guess I'm going to tell football stories, and or one football story maybe. You know, when I came out of college, obviously I didn't go to Harvard University because I thought it was a pathway to the NFL. I never thought I'd go to Harvard University, much less the NFL. But it turns out Harvard has a football team, and they try to win games too. So some of us, they lower the standards a little bit to let us in, which I was happy to accept. And you know, I was coming out of college. It was like, wow, I've actually got a chance to play in the NFL. And then I was drafted by the Vikings, and I was like, well, this is really good because I'm from St. Paul, and Vikings were my favorite team, and I'm like, this is great. And up to that point, you know, I'd kind of like through high school and college, like I just sort of had goals. I'd set them and I'd accomplish them, and it was like, this is just kind of how it goes. Like, I don't want to say it was easy, but success came somewhat easy to me. And so when I got drafted in the NFL, and this was my life, my path, I was like, great. I want to play for 10 years, and I want to make a lot of money, and I want to be famous, and all that stuff, right? That's where I was at. I was 22 years old. And I thought, well, I'm just gonna, you know, show up and make it happen. And so, first day walking into the Minnesota Vikings locker room, not knowing anything other than like, I'm gonna do this. I remember walking in the locker room, and I opened the doors, and the first 4 guys I saw, they were just sitting right here in a locker, just drinking coffee. And yes, professional football players drink coffee. We drink lots of coffee, lots of other stuff too. And it was John Randall, who's in the Hall of Fame, Randall McDaniel, who's now in the Hall of Fame, Chris Carter, who's also in the Hall of Fame, and Jeff Christie, who is not in the Hall of Fame, but at the time he was the starting center for the Minnesota Vikings, just making the Pro Bowl every year. So my first thought was, I wonder what the policy is on asking for autographs. I was a huge fan, you know, and I was like, yeah, play it cool. And so, yeah, I just kind of walked, what's up? And then I was walking around. I'd never been in a locker room before. I'm like, where's my locker? You know? And so I'm walking, there's a locker with my name up there, and shoulder pads, helmet, and a bunch of shoes. And the best part was there was like 20 pairs of just snow white socks. I was still in college. It was April. I was still finishing college and doing my own laundry sometimes. And to have like 20 new pairs of socks, I was like, I'm taking these back. And there was a playbook in there. Now this is 1998, right? So no iPads. I mean, an actual playbook. And those of you old enough to remember the NFL playbook, it was like as thick as an old phone book. You know, it was like 500 pages, like this. I mean, that was the offensive playbook. Defensive playbook, there's only one page. It's true, it's just a picture of the football and it says, go get it. That's all you need to know to play defense, but I was like, hey, great. I was like, there's a playbook, pretty sure I'm probably smarter than most of these guys. I can probably pick this up pretty quick and I'll be well on my way, because I gotta have a 10-year career, right? And went to the first meeting, and you know, when I say 1998 Minnesota Vikings fans, I see some of you still hanging your heads. I'm sure we'll get over it someday. But that turned out to be, you know, the most prolific offense in the history of the NFL at the time. So when you show up in the NFL, like, nobody cares that you're a rookie. Like, they're not like, okay, let's start on page 1 for the rookies. That's not how it works. I'm sure your onboarding process here is a lot nicer. You just kind of get thrown into the fire. So we're sitting in this meeting, and you know, Chris Carter and Randy Moss and Brad Johnson and Robert Smith, all these guys, I don't even know where we are in the book. I'm pretty sure we're not even in the book. Like, they're just inventing offense up on the board as we go. And so I sit in this meeting, and I didn't really learn anything. But I was like, that's all right, I'm not worried, because I got a goal, right? and I'm just gonna go accomplish this goal. And so we go out on the field and running around a little bit, and then it was time to offense go against defense. The starting offense went against the starting defense. I remember sitting back there, and I was watching a few plays, and I was just like, whoa, this guy's pretty good, you know? It's a little bit different level of football than I was used to in the Ivy League, which a lot of you probably learned today that Harvard does in fact have a football team. we got uniforms and everything. It's great. So I was just kind of back there, like just kind of in awe, like whoa. And then coach turns around, he's like, "You're in." It's like, oh my gosh, here we go. And I run into the huddle and I'm kind of hyperventilating a little bit. And Brad Johnson stepped into the huddle. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm in the huddle with Brad Johnson. Like, wait till I tell my buddies, you know? And I was just hoping, I said, when he calls the play, I just hope I know whether it's a run or a pass. You know, because every, football, the way they call plays, it's kind of like each team sort of has their own language. And it's my first day there, and I don't have to ask the guy next to me, what's it a runner? So Brad calls the play, and I knew it was a pass. And I was like, great. Broke the huddle, went up to the line of scrimmage, and there was John Randall. So first play in the NFL, I got to block John Randall. And at the time, John Randall was the best defensive lineman in the NFL. I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect, because I'd only been there for half a day, but everybody was already making fun of me. Because that's what you did back then in the NFL. Hazing was not just allowed, but it was kind of encouraged. So they tried to make it as miserable as they can on the rookies. And people were making fun of me, and I was like, I'm gonna lock John Randall down, and everyone's gonna stop making fun of me because I got something to prove. These guys don't know it, but I'm gonna be a star. And so, as an offensive lineman, what you want to do against a defensive lineman on a pass play is you want to punch him in the chest, and then you want to grab onto him. You don't want to hold onto him. You want to grab onto him. I know that sounds very nuanced, but there's a lot of difference between grabbing and holding, okay? About 10 yards of difference. I'm thinking to myself, I'm not just going to punch John Randall in his chest. I'm going to punch John Randall so hard that my hands are going to go through his chest and come out his back. Like that's what I was envisioning, or collapsing his lungs. I was gonna kill John Randall. I was willing to sacrifice him on the field that day. So the ball snapped and I came out of my stance and I punched as hard as I could. But I closed my eyes because I was super scared. John Randall was a bad man. I mean, he's crazy. Like, he'd walk around, he'd paint his face, he'd bark like a dog. I mean, like a lot of guys in the NFL, he ain't right. And when I punched him and I closed my eyes, I didn't feel anything. And that's a bad feeling for an offensive lineman, because your job is essentially like getting that guy's way. And so I punched, I didn't feel anything, and I opened my eyes, and John was no longer here. He was like here, on his way to the quarterback. And so this is going to be like the greatest play in the history of the NFL to what we call a lookout block. You say, look out. And so John's on the quarterback before the play even starts, and Brad he's pissed off, and he's throwing the ball on the ground, and John's back there laughing, he's going, ha, 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 ha. And the coaches are yelling and screaming at me because I just screwed the whole thing up, and I'm just thinking to myself, thank God I got my degree. I can't do this. In one play, I was thinking, I went from 10-year career, here we go, to I can't do this. I was thinking I'm just going to go out here and make it happen. And now I'm like, what am I going to do now? I just got embarrassed. Just got embarrassed in front of all these guys. And here's where I think one of the problems, if you will, that happens with people who do set goals and want to achieve things, high performers like you guys. It's like you set a goal, right? So great, you set a goal, it's out here. I'm at A, this is where I am right now, I want to get to B, right? And so right away you're kind of saying like, this ain't good enough right here, right? I got to get there. And so what happens? What do a lot of us do? First of all, there's stress and anxiety created because we're not where we want to be, okay? And so we do a lot of these things that help us, we think are going to help us get to B, but we're only doing them to get there, right? It's like it's a means to an end. So what does that come? That means like daily, these steps we're taking, it's very monotonous. They're not real purposeful. We don't feel alive when we're doing them. And that's okay, right? A lot of you would say, that's okay. I can grind, I can do it. And great, you can, but it's kind of miserable. And then maybe sometimes you gotta take breaks. You gotta, we call it escape behaviors, right? You go on social media, have a few drinks. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but in excess, right? Not good. You do some escape behaviors. And then what normally happens? A lot of times we hit the B, right? And we feel good for a little while. And then what happens? Now we gotta go to C, right? And we repeat this cycle over and over and over again. And one that's kind of, I think, and I experienced this as a player at certain times in my career, it's a miserable way to live. Like you don't want your daily experience to be just stress and anxiety and monotony and take an escape. Like that's not what we would call a great life, right? But also it would almost be like how many more B's could we hit, or how much more could we accomplish if we actually made the process primary? Well, I was fortunate as a football player because quickly I realized I had really no business being in the NFL. Like I wasn't gonna do it. I wasn't just gonna go out there and make it happen. And so after that first practice, Mike Tice was my offensive line coach. Remember Mike Tice, 6'8", looked like Frankenstein. From New York, so he's not a nice guy. And we're walking off the field. I said, how do you think it went out there today? I said, that was pretty good. No, it wasn't. I was like, well, I did some good things. He's like, no, you didn't. I will say in the NFL, we do value honest, instant feedback. Like that's one of our core values, but probably talk to each other a lot different than the way you guys talk. That's just the culture. And he was like, look, I played tackle in college, that's where the really good guys play on the offensive line. He's like, you're not gonna play tackle in the NFL. And I knew he was right, but I was like, man, that's just kind of harsh. Like, there's only been one practice. He's like, you're probably not good enough to play guard either. And I was like, you didn't try me at guard. How do you know that, right? He's like, I think your only chance is to play center. Have you ever played center before? I said, no, I never played center before. And he was like, okay. Mike was not thrilled. He's like, all right, well, so back then we had 2 practices a day. He says, be out there, be out here 5 minutes early before the afternoon practice. We'll practice snapping the football, the quarterbacks. I'm like, okay. So I'm out there like 20 minutes early. And I'm trying to do this, positive self-talk, which is great, but you can't just manifest things to happen. You can't just make things happen. But that's what I was trying to, and I was kind of trying to talk myself up, but I was also saying, look, chances are you're not gonna make this team. This probably isn't for you. That's okay. I was like, at that point I said, I kind of let go of the 10-year goal. I said, I'm just gonna work as hard as I can work. I'm just gonna try to do everything they tell me to do, and then they can cut me in a month, and I'll move on with my life. Okay, how's that for inspiration? Right? But I was just being honest with myself. I was like, this probably ain't gonna happen, right? Odds were against me anyways to start. So I let go of the beat, and I said, I'm right here right now. What are we doing? So I'm waiting. 5 minutes before practice, here come the quarterbacks. Brad Johnson, Randall Cunningham, right? Randall Cunningham was my 5th grade fantasy football quarterback on my team. I was like, this is just a team of all-stars, I was like, this is unbelievable. Yeah. And for 5 minutes, we just practiced snapping the football. You just bend over and put your hand on the ball. Quarterback puts his hands underneath you. Takes a little getting used to. Just being honest. And you just practice snapping the football. And chances are, if you watch football in person or on TV, you've never hit the person next to you and said, oh my gosh, did you see how the center snapped the ball? It was perfect. How does he do that? It never makes the Sports Center top 10. Look at this snap by the quarterback. It was right in his hands. No, the only time you notice the snap is when?
It's fumbled.
Yeah, when it's fumbled, right?
Yep.
And then let's be honest, you always blame the center.
Yep.
You never stop and think, well, maybe it was the quarterback's fault that time, do you? Just saying, I'm in therapy, I'm almost done. But that day and every single day for 15 years, I went out 5 minutes early and practiced snapping the football to the quarterbacks. Why? Because it's that important, right? You have the greatest play in the history of the world called, if the quarterback doesn't get the ball, it ain't gonna work. You know? A lot of it's human nature, we say, okay, yeah, I've done that, I got that, what's next? It's like, no, this is it right here. So every single day, 5 minutes, snap the football. Then, and everybody does it the same in the NFL, there's very little originality. Everybody's paranoid, they don't wanna try anything new, it's like, this is how everybody else does it. Practice starts. And then you break off into position groups. And the quarterbacks and wide receivers, they're on the 50-yard line, the grass is perfect, they're just dropping back, and they just throw nice, easy passes. Linemen, we get sent down into the corner, just right next to the parking lot. Like rocks and broken beer bottles. We get in these things called chutes, okay? Think of a chute, it's kind of like it'd be kind of like a big box with it's just a frame. There's not sides to it, so it's kind of open. And what you do is you get in the chute, you get in your stance, and you come out of your stance, and you have to stay low. You're in the chute, you have to stay low. If you get too high, you hit your head on one of the bars, and what the chute does is it teaches you to stay low. Because in line play, leverage is everything. You say low man wins. Super interesting talk, right? You guys are like, oh my gosh, O-line is so interesting. Should have got a quarterback. Okay, so you're in this chute every single day. We get in the chutes, and you come out and you stay low, and then we're trying to train you. They try to train you to keep your feet apart, keep a base, because that's when you're strong. You got a chance. When you get your feet together on a football field, you get knocked over. Trust me, that's what happens when you get your feet together. You don't have any power. And so then we get these 10-foot long boards. They're about 1.5 feet wide, and we called them boards. Not complicated, okay? And we would straddle the board in the chute, and you have to come and just teach you to keep a base. Now, I think the NFL it's the highest level of football, right? I don't think there's like a super NFL or anything. And we're doing these drills, snapping the football in the chutes, on the boards. It's the same thing they do in college. It's the same thing they do in high school. I coach 8th grade football. We're 0-3, by the way. We've gotten out coached in all 3 games. That's a fact. Yeah, I take it personally. We do those drills, right? Why? Because the fundamentals never change. They never change. 100 years from now when they're playing football, I will guarantee you the centers and quarterbacks are going to be out there early, practicing the snap. Linemen will be down in the chutes, coming out on the boards, because the fundamentals never change. And so at that point in my career, second half of day 1, that's all I was worried about. And you know what? Don't tell anybody. But it doesn't take any talent to snap a football between your legs. Shocker, right? It doesn't really take any talent to stay low. It doesn't take any talent to keep your feet apart. All you gotta do is just commit to doing it. And so my purpose as a football player went from 10-year career to, I'm just gonna get really good at these drills. Like, I can control that. And so it was kind of weird, but I would get great satisfaction out of doing these drills well. I had let go of whatever the result was gonna be, or I thought because there wasn't gonna be a result. I was just like, I'm just gonna get good at these. And it turns out, if you start to get good at that stuff, you can kind of become a decent football player. I kind of equate it to, anybody seen the Karate Kid? The first Karate Kid, the good one,
Yes,
the good one, right? Remember Danielson, he's waxing the cars, and he's painting the fence, and he says, you haven't taught me karate. And then he starts throwing punches at him, and he figures out he's actually been taught karate. That's kind of what it was like. But I wasn't ready to be Pro Bowl football player. That's what I thought. Hey, teach me how to fight. No, I just had to learn the basic skills. So that was my first day in the NFL. I'll fast forward to my last day in the NFL, which was playing in the Super Bowl. Obviously not with the Vikings. So, truth hurts a little bit, I know. I'll tell you a little bit about playing the Super Bowl, because you guys are Vikings fans, you don't know anything about it. So we had won, played for Baltimore, we had beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship game in Foxborough. It was awesome. I still remember seeing Bill Belichick and Tom Brady walk off the field kind of pouting. It brought me so much joy. we can all get behind not liking the Patriots. So we beat the Patriots. So now you got 2 weeks before the game, before the Super Bowl. And as football players, we're creatures of habit. It's every 7 days we go. We're on that clock. No idea what this is going to look like, right? So coach comes in the next day and kind of going through the schedule, and he says, look, we're going to do this first week, we're staying here, and we're just going to treat it like a regular week. We'll get all our work done. And then we're going to go to New Orleans and nobody get arrested. That's kind of basically what the plan was. So, I'm not kidding. And so then our coach is like, okay, the offensive coordinator is like, hey guys, good. Just so you know, first play we're going to run in the Super Bowl, this is 13 days before the game. First play we're going to run in the Super Bowl is dot right 40 gun. Now that probably doesn't sound like a super complicated play. It's not. It's like the most basic running play. Everybody has it. You put it in the first day of training camp. The running back just steps to the right, gets the football. Each lineman steps to the right. You block whatever guy is in your gap. Again, not a complicated game. And when the coach said the first play we're going to run is dot right 40 gut, there was a little bit of like, what? We're playing in the Super Bowl. We're playing for a world championship. And we're going out there with dot right 40 gut. Okay, I mean, stay up all night thinking about that? So all week, during practice, you have all these different, time periods. It's broken in, and so every time we come together as a team, dot right 40 gut. That was the first play we ran. Every period, dot right 40 gut, dot right 40. Always. Then we go, and we run dot right 40 gut 1 million times, okay? Then we go to New Orleans, and you're doing these little practices, and it's dot right 40 gut. And so we finally get to the game. And it's, super long pregame, it's all the pomp and circumstance, and it's like, are we ever gonna play this game? And finally, we kick the ball off, we run out on the field, and our quarterback, Joe Flacco, steps in the huddle, he says, guys, you know what the play is. Okay? It's on one, which was good, because if he just said dot right 40 gut, we'd have probably all thrown up. And we went up there, we ran dot right 40 gut, and it wasn't a real spectacular play. We got like 2 yards. Maybe my guy made the tackle. Here's the point, okay? If there had been a drone over the field taking the video of this play, okay? And you run that video back to the beginning, and you were to edit out all the people in the stands, and all the people on the sidelines, and all the other players on the field, and just keep me there, and run that video. You know what you'd have seen me doing? You'd see me snapping a football, I was in the chute, and I was coming out on the board. All I was trying to do was execute the fundamentals that I'd spent every single day for the last 15 years trying to perfect. People ask me all the time, what's it like to play in a Super Bowl? And I tell them, my answer is, I don't really know. Because in my mind, I wasn't playing in the Super Bowl. If I'd have thought, playing in the Super Bowl, or playing for a world championship, maybe I'll get the MVP, maybe I'll go to Disney World. Thank you for laughing. They never get the MVP to an offensive line, it's always the quarterback. But if I would have thought about all that other stuff, if I would have thought about the big B that was sitting right there, I don't know if I'd have been able to leave the locker room. That might have been too much. I mean, everybody's got an important job, but I'm the center. I handle the most important thing on the field, the ball, right? I screw something up with the ball, lose the game. Nobody forgets that, right? Like that's a bad way. Everyone's, oh, there's the guy that screwed it up, right? I wasn't thinking about any of that. I wasn't watching any news. Thank God I wasn't on social media then. I shouldn't be on social media now. Thank you. But in my mind, I just made the game as small as I possibly could. And I just went back to those fundamentals. And to me, that's what, oh, listen, we won the game, so it's like, well, he must know what he's talking about. We could have lost the game. It came down to the last play, but I can tell you, to me, that's where I knew for me, I had a job to do, and that's what was gonna give me the best chance of being successful at my job, was just making it really making the game as small as I possibly could. And sort of letting go of the results, if you will. I think that sounds like, oh yeah, that makes sense, that sounds simple. Hard to do because we all wanna be successful, right? We all wanna, it's fun to think about that. Geez, what if we make it? You know, what if I hit that big B out there? Like, that'll be awesome. You know what? This was my experience. I'm not saying it's your experience, because I know you guys have all accomplished great things in your life too. Anybody else win the Super Bowl? Just kidding. Totally kidding. But people do ask me, what's it like to win a Super Bowl? And this is honestly what I tell them. You know, you never talk about, so if we win, this is how it's going down. Oh, no. Football coaches are like the most paranoid people on the face. You never talk about stuff like that. So when you do actually win, and we had to, it came down to the end. Here's a quick story. So Super Bowl we played in, it was one where the lights went out. Okay, remember that one? So we were up 28-6. Things couldn't have been going any better. We were killing them. And it was like, I'm like, man, this, you kind of, for a second, you're like, is this gonna be one of those games where like, we're just kind of partying in the fourth quarter? And then the lights went out, and the lights came back on, and it was a totally different ball game. All of a sudden, we couldn't stop them, we couldn't get a first down, and so we're up 5, and 49ers get the ball here, 5 minutes left in the game, they just march down the field, and they're first and goal on the 5-yard line. They gotta score a touchdown, we gotta stop. First down, they don't get it. Second down, they don't get it. Third down, they don't get it. It's 4th and 5. Like, this is the ball game. It didn't feel like if they scored that we were gonna go. And so I was thinking to myself, okay, it's a Super Bowl. It's all gonna come down to this one play. This is, I mean, everything leading up to that had a part of it, but this one play is gonna determine who wins and loses. And I'm on the sidelines. I can't do nothing about it. And I'm a Vikings fan, right? So I know how this ends. I've seen this movie way too many times, right? But I remember kind of having this, I kind of had this moment, and I was like, this is pretty messed up. You know, it all comes, and I'm over here, right? And I'm looking around, I mean, there are guys, they became believers right then and there. I mean, I've never seen so many guys praying so hard in my life, you know? 'Cause all but 11 of us couldn't do anything. And I remember thinking, well, I did have this, I said, regardless of what happens, I do think that I did everything that I could do, you know? I was committed to those fundamentals. That was my, and I tried as hard, I took it seriously. I was a good teammate. I was like, and I knew it was my last game. I knew I was done after this. Which again, I was like, yeah, Vikings. But I kind of had this, you know, people like, what was it like? I wasn't stressed at all. I kind of had a peace, because I just knew, at least I knew I did everything I could do. Now, thankfully, the quarterback threw it up. They threw a goal line fade, and a lot of 49ers fans think it was pass interference. Personally, I think it was a great no call by the officials. The ball fell incomplete. We won, and so it's a great moment. You know, your family's running out of the field. You don't really know what's happening. Confetti's falling. It's like, yeah, you don't have a lot of days like that. So to be able to share something like that with the people that mean the most to you, that's cool, right? That's special. But I remember out there for about 10 minutes, and things sort of settled down. And I remember thinking, my wife asked me, she's like, what do you think? And I was like, that's it. Like, I don't want to say it was a letdown, but I guess at that point, I knew 100%. I knew it wasn't about winning the Super Bowl. It was about the whole journey that it took to get there, and it was really about the people I did it with. That's what was special. We did have a championship culture. That doesn't mean you're gonna win the Super Bowl, but we had a championship culture, and going through that with other people and having that, going through what I call common suffering, which is what creates the bonds, and then being able to, we have that journey that we went through together. And not that we won the Super Bowl, but when we get together, we talk about, remember when we played that prank on so-and-so, remember when that's what we talk about. It's not that stuff. That's where the value was. And that's where I guess that's what I miss. You know, people say, what do you miss about football? I don't miss playing. I was fortunate to play a long time. I miss the paychecks a little bit. Especially what these guys are making now. But I miss just being with a group of people who all are laser focused on a goal, who are showing up every day, like, hey, we're gonna get stuff done today, and we're gonna get better, and we're gonna do everything we can to win. And so it seems like that's what you have here. And don't dismiss that, don't take that for granted. It doesn't just happen. You gotta work at it, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So that's enough of me talking. I think we got time for a few questions. I'd love to ask me anything, you know, like people say, do you know Randy Moss? I say, yeah, I know Randy Moss. He knows me too. Sometimes he talks to me, sometimes he doesn't.
Man, talk about your family.
My family.
Yeah, family.
So, married 23 years, 8 kids. That was not the plan. Stuff happens though. Yeah, I got 3 girls. One's out of college, 2 are in college. One goes to Alabama, one goes to Clemson. Going to Clemson this weekend, gonna watch a football game. They like the southern schools. And then I have 5 boys. People say, do your boys play football? I say, yes, absolutely. Not that I make them, but they're like me. They're not great athletes, so. If you're not a great athlete, guess what? You're gonna play offensive line. But yeah, it's life is full. We go from 23 years down to 2 9-year-olds, adopted sons, not biological twins, but I call them Polish twins. Block jokes used to be fun. Sicily told you we're not super politically correct. Anyways, yeah, but life's full. I have a construction company. If you got any ugly houses, foreclosures, talk to me. And yeah, I spent a lot of time at the Union Catholic High School here in Burnsville. I was over there this morning. I teach a class on Wednesdays. This semester we're calling it self-sufficiency and independence. And on Wednesdays we try to do more like hands-on stuff. So we do everything from, we're building picnic tables. Today the church had 30 yards of mulch dropped off. So for 2 hours, me and the students did some service and did some just good old-fashioned work and spread mulch and yeah.
So your last day of your last game, you remember that. And now you know your NFL career is over. Where does your mind go after that? How did you get to your what's next?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I kind of think, I do think that part of my problem is, I always felt like I was gotta be doing something. Like a little bit, that's how my worth is defined, or self-worth, you know? Right? High achievers, you gotta keep hitting B's, right? That's what I expect of myself, that's what other people expect of me. I think when I retired, I should have just kind of done nothing for like 6 months. No, I'm serious, you know, they talk about, you come out of that, or I do a lot of stuff with military vets, and you know, it's that transitioning out. Like if you transition careers, that's one thing, but when you go from really a way of life to like another way of life, I call it the wandering in the woods. And nobody likes to wander, but it's necessary. And I was like, oh, I wrote a book, and I went to work at the NFL, and I did this, and I should have just stopped and just kind of sort of tried to figure it out. But instead, I don't want to say I don't believe in like, I think you win or you learn, you know. I went to work in the NFL, I moved my family to New York and worked in the NFL league office for a couple of years, and I hated it, you know. And it was miserable, and but professionally. But learned a lot. Learned I'm not a corporate guy, and yeah, take it from I don't just look back. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. No, there was a reason for that. I learned. Yeah. But I think for my family's sake too, I wish I'd have just sort of discerned a little bit better instead of just trying to jump into a bunch of different things.
We're going to open it up to the audience in the last 10 minutes. Lieutenant Governor candidate, how did you arrive?
I took second place.
How did you arrive at that? How did you arrive? What made you decide to run? Yeah. What did you learn also running as lieutenant governor?
How much time we got? Yeah, I would say I'm not super politically inclined necessarily, but you know, from Minnesota, and I don't know, you know, after coming out of COVID and all that stuff, kind of crazy times, right? Like everybody's kind of into it a little bit, and just happened to meet a guy named Scott Jensen on an airplane one day. My wife's like, Scott Jensen's on this airplane. I'm like, who's Scott Jensen? Anyways, talked to him a little bit, and we sort of became friends, and sort of, I got to know Scott as a man of character first, and then he said he's gonna run for governor, and I was like, well, I just want someone who has character to do it. So I supported him, and then he's like, hey, what do you think about being my lieutenant governor? And I'm like, no. And then he came back like a month later, and he asked me again, and I just, I thought about it, talked over with my wife, and just thought, well, maybe, one thing I'm not saying it was a mistake, but I'd probably say, if something's a good thing, if I think it's a good thing, I just say yes. Well, maybe without fully thinking it through. So, just said yes, and what did I learn? Whew, man, people are people. You meet a lot of people, and you meet a lot of different types of people. And I mean, I learned a lot of great things. Like you talked about, I spent a ton of time in like North Minneapolis, just talking to people. You know, I'm not from North Minneapolis. Everyone says, I had no idea what it was like over there, right? Spent a lot of time. It's like, and once you kind of get past, I think once you get past whatever, we're all different. We got different political views, religious views. I hear some people actually root for the Packers. They never admitted to me, but there's people out there. But kind of once you can kind of get through all that stuff, you know, I mean, I think the one thing I'll take away from running for office is everybody does just kind of want the same things. We got all these different ways of going about it and different belief systems, but you know, I learned to be more patient with people. You know, I remember somebody told me once, because especially in politics, like it's really fun to get all riled up, especially if somebody espouses a different view than your own. It's like, oh yeah, let's do it. Somebody told me once, you know, like you can't be mad at people because they didn't grow up in your house, they didn't have your parents, they didn't go to school where you went, they don't have your friends, they don't have the experiences you've had. So why do you think they're going to believe everything you believe? And I was like, that's like a really good basic kind of thing to start with, right? Like instead of trying to like hold everybody personally accountable because, and so again, yeah, you kind of, as you know too, I mean, running for office, I mean, politics is, I don't care what side you're on, it's crazy. Like there's crazy people all over the place. And so you do kind of have to find that refuge inside of you and try to kind of make sense of it all. Otherwise, I would probably go insane. And it was just like playing football. Because people would come up and say, hey, you know what you should do? I've been waiting for you. Tell me, you know? It's like guys, you play for the Vikings, it's like you know, a gas station, go, hey, you know what you guys need to do when you're on the goal line? I'm like, oh, why, you listen to K-Fan? Like, yeah. Like, hey, buddy, I just snapped the ball, I don't call the play. So no shortage of free advice out there in politics or football.
We'll open it up to the audience for questions.
Yes. Yes.
Love your modesty, Midwest guy through and through. Didn't really know you were a comedian. You're hilarious, by the way. I love that. And I'll say, very respectful, your career, you're decorated, and I know you probably don't want to hear this like Jamie said. And stemming off what Cicely mentioned, my question is how do you do it, right? So like you finished the Super Bowl, if I recall correctly from a podcast, K-Fan CCO, you dropped a ton of weight right away. You said, I'm guessing, I'm just speculating. Oh boy, a new lifestyle. Here we go. I have to shift gears. You didn't wait 6 months. You did it pretty much right away, right?
Yeah.
And then how? I mean, how did you, then you went to point B and then C and then D. What makes you go to those next steps after you did it?
Well, thanks for that. I would say, we're all, again, don't underestimate like the environments that you're in, right? Those have a big effect on us. You know, I think that, I joke and I'm not kidding, like I'm not a super talented guy athletically. I mean, I loved sports growing up, but I wasn't good at any of them. And then 10th grade, I was like, well, I played everything except football. Let me try football. And that's where I kind of discovered, you know, two of the gifts that God gave me, which was getting in people's way and grabbing on them, you know. not holding, right? Not exactly like, you know, gifts that, you pray for, hope for, right? But, nobody wants to be an offensive lineman, No kid is kneeling down and I say, dear God, please make me an offensive lineman. It's a prayer God's never heard. But what's the point? The point is this, what I was blessed with was 2 parents who had amazing work ethic. And so, my mom grew up on a farm. She worked at a nursing home for 35 years, that's not a glamorous job. And my dad delivered newspapers back when we used to actually get newspapers delivered to our house, when like everybody got the paper. So my dad would get up every single day at 2 a.m., like 365 days a year. And, my parents, talking to a lot of parents out here, which if any of you parents think you're like, the only anxiety I really have in my life is like my kids and am I doing a good job, right? Like that's really all that matters, right? Once you get to a certain point. And so none of us think we're doing it well enough, or if you do, you're not. But like we never sat down and said, hey, let's have a talk about this or that. Just the example of work. Like you just get up, every day you get up and you go to work. And so that's all I know, I don't know, I guess that's it. Like, it's like you're here to do stuff.
The foundation.
Yeah, and so it's like, hey, start, get up early and go to work. And then everything else usually takes care of itself. And listen, I'm far from perfect. More failures in business or football than wins per se. But I think if you can always when you think about like your identity, don't let your accomplishments define you, because you can't, like I talked about the Super Bowl, could have lost that game. He completes that ball, it's over. Don't define yourself by what you've accomplished. Last year I hit this number or whatever. I think it needs to be something that you can control. And so even when stuff goes bad, at least I lay my head down at night and say, well, I worked hard. I'll wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna work hard. I'll figure it out. Like that's kind of, I don't know. I can answer.
Yeah, it's a fantastic answer. You knew what you
I think
knew.
losing weight, like everyone's like, oh my gosh, you lost 100 pounds. It's like, I was like 315. Like I couldn't have weighed any more. If you want to lose weight, here's the trick.
Don't eat.
No, just get to a really high number. There's nowhere to go but down. It's super easy to lose weight when you're like maxed out.
How about your purpose? You said something about a purpose early on. What is your purpose?
Well, the professional purpose.
How about your personal?
My personal purpose, to know, to love, and to serve God.
Yeah.
That's it. Wow. So, yeah, and I get sideways on that too. I say, oh, I'm doing all these things for you, God. Well, I got ego, and sometimes I get focused on the wrong things. I tell my kids that God just wants your best effort. He'll take care of the results. If you're supposed to hit that B, you're supposed to hit it. If not, He's trying to tell you something else. I try to tell you, you need some humility, which we're all Vikings fans, so we all have plenty of humility in spades. Yes?
So did you ever get to Disney?
Only after writing a really large check, which I don't never go back.
Exactly.
So you co-founded a school.
Yeah?
Why? And
Yeah,
what was the interest there?
Great question. I was just, my foundation was always focused on education, and it's my story too. One of the things I was always grateful for is I did have parents who was always like, you do your homework before you go. School came pretty easy to me, but it was always, that was number one, and sports is number two. And we moved around a bunch, moved around the country, and so I'd go and tour these new schools with my kids, and it just seemed like the education model was just very antiquated. It was like, we're just gonna, when I was in school, when most of you were in school, it was like, we're just gonna push a bunch of information on you and then you regurgitate it back. And that was great back then, because being able to retain knowledge was a valuable skill. Because if you didn't know something, you'd have to go to the library and use that Dewey Decimal System, which did anybody ever really figure that out? and look it up, and so if you if you remember the capital Argentina, like you could save yourself 20 minutes. But now we were getting into this world where like we all have supercomputers in our pockets, and it's like, well, that's really not a useful skill anymore. Why are a lot of schools still stressing that? And then I just happened to read this paper from, it was Bain Consulting, about the economy of the future. And it was talking about way in the future, 5 years from now. The skills that are gonna be in demand for employers. It was what we would call like, what you'd call soft skills now, or like emotional intelligence, being able to collaborate, being able to take criticism, communication skills. And it kind of made sense because now we're all such digital creatures, and kids, if you have kids, right, they're so digital, and like this is so, it's just like supply and demand, right? There's not a ton of supply. And so I was like, why are we having kids memorize the state capitals? And I won't get into the whole story, but just sort of like got teamed up with another guy who had started a school before. I was like, oh, you actually know how to do this. Here's kind of what I'm thinking. And they wanted to be a Catholic school. I'm a Catholic school product, and I do think, I do think it's important, especially in today's world. Although the world's always been a mess, but in today's world, you know, that sort of anti-Christian bend to it, that we really do help kids know that let's help our families, let's help our parents, and help our kids to know God and to understand that, you know, that they were created for a purpose. And you know, if they know who made them and what He did for them, and then, you know, they can kind of, if you got that, you know, you can handle whatever life's gonna throw at you. Because really the point of school should be, we're preparing kids for life and maybe ultimately eternity, not just prepare you to get into college. You know, college is great if you're built for it, but if you're not, like, and I love seeing all this kind of this movement towards like trades and stuff, and being in construction, it's like, man, it's like, you know, the trades are where it's at. I have a brother who's, he's 46. He doesn't have an email address. He just builds stuff. And when he goes home, he's with his 4 kids, he doesn't answer his phone. It's like, I think he's weird in other ways, but I think he kind of figured that part out, you know, so. Sorry, long rambling answer, yes.
So you've had obviously a lot of success in many areas, but like the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year award, like what does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, it means a lot. I mean, when I was growing up, Walter Payton was like the guy, and then, you know, his life was cut short, and going through that process and winning that award, I met his wife and his 2 kids, and it's great. Like, they're great people, and you hear these awesome stories about Walter Payton, like who he was as a man, like great football player, really seemed like he's a better man. And so to win an award with his name on it's awesome, especially like, I mean, again, kind of right place, right time, I think, for me. They don't give it to an offensive lineman very often, you know? It's like, let's give it to one of those guys nobody knows this year. So I just happened to be there. But obviously, you know, you don't do, like, you guys are all involved in your ways in your communities, and you don't do it to win awards. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It was just, I was really grateful to have you play in the NFL, you have a platform, you know, it's an overused word, but you do. I remember the first time I showed up, the first week after I made the team, and Denny Green was like, hey, on Tuesdays, we go out into the community. So if you don't have somewhere to go, get with this guy, Brad. You get with Brad, he'll send you somewhere. And I was like, well, I'm gonna make sure I'm out there, because I'm like the luckiest guy in the world to be here. And he sent me to a school, and no kids knew who I was, but the fact that I played for the Vikings, the kids were all excited. And so it's just fun to do that work, and hopefully, you know, you hope you help some people along the way. I had a bunch of people help me, so that's just the right thing to do.
30 seconds, talk about your book, because you left it here, we're gonna purchase for you. We're gonna get a picture with you before you go.
I wrote a book when I was done, and I called it 7 Choices That Lead to Greatness, which is a big title. But there's really 7 questions. 7 questions I think everybody should, I think if you can answer those 7 questions, you're on your way. One of them is, what's your purpose? And I don't beat anybody over the head with it. There is one chapter in there about faith, but it's not a hard read. you know, probably an hour, 90 minutes. There's pictures in there, so if you know Packers fans. Great for Packers fans. But, you know, like an alternative title would have been, you know, everything I needed to know in life I learned playing football. Football, to me, the two things it did for me. One, it's a huge part of my faith journey, brought me back to God after I fell away, because I figured I had all the answers, because I was playing in the NFL, making millions of dollars. Everybody was telling me how awesome I was, so I was like, I got this thing figured out, which I obviously didn't. But number two, and hopefully kind of did it today, was football's a great metaphor for life, and going through it, it's just very applicable to everybody. I mean, how I approach my marriage, which I'm not saying I'm a marriage expert either. My wife would tell you I'm not. How I approach fatherhood, how I approach business. It's just very much how we did it in the NFL. Not that we invented it, but in the NFL, everything is like, it's real. It's a gut level. You kind of live and operate on this gut level, and so the lessons become very vivid and kind of ingrained in you. So I don't know. It's a pretty good book, but a lot of guys in the NFL who were actually stars I interviewed, and they helped me out in there too. So yeah.
I just want to put a
That's it.
statement out that you are not here to sell the book. We asked you to bring it.
Yeah,
It's really
I sell
important that
books.
everyone knows. And
I have thousands of copies. My wife says, "Can't you sell these?"
No, that's a good book.
we're happy to support. That's the Venmo to at Adriana-Birk. Let's thank
Yes.
Matt Birk for coming out today.
So, not sure how much time you got, Matt. Well, first of all, for those of you who don't know, Buenos Aires. Argentina. I Googled that. I knew it. I just ran to the library. So, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna have a line there, right where Monique is. And if you want a book, you can grab it right there, and then we'll take pictures with Matt right there.
Please.
So we're gonna go this way.
Are we doing a
And-
group one?
What's that?
One? Because I want to knock that out. Are we
Oh,
doing
no,
a
no,
group
let's
one?
get this going.
Get this
And
going?
then, yep.
Okay.
And then just, okay. So all you do is, which makes sense, it goes right to his wife. It tells you,
Just eliminate a step. Just go straight there.
that's all pro wisdom. Evidence. So awesome, let's get in those lines, and if those of you who aren't getting in the line right away, grab some food. Thank you, Brian, for that. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, it'll be in front of the keynote.
I should have brought ours because my dad's out of town.